Instability is our word du jour. And we have still some of it left going on in the Northeast with a cold, unstable air mass. We also have instability of a more violent sort as we have some severe weather going on in parts of Texas tonight and enhanced risk of severe thunderstorms in the forecast. We'll talk about that. We've have some gloom and doom to look forward to as we head toward the end of the week and into the weekend. This is all going to be explained in incredible detail tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show, which is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York, at Southwest Suffolk County on Long Island, serving the entire New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, tri-state area. Whether you're a landscaper or a do-it-yourselfer, they've got sand, topsoil, and boy, do they have mulch. So get your truck over there and pick some up. 631-756-1125 for the best prices in town. And of course, as we all know, the website is
OmniTrueValue.com.
And brought to you by Tempest, by Weatherflow, our newest affiliate. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system, simple to install, and you can monitor it on your mobile device and join the fastest growing observing network on the planet. The link is pinned to the top of the chat board. And if you use the coupon code Joe and Joe Weather Show, do you know what you get, Joe Rayo?
10% off.
That's correct.
Yes.
Tempest by Weatherflow. Speaking of flowing weather, Joe Rayo is sitting on the right side, and I am on the left side in two different states. Joe is parked himself up in the People's Republic of the state of New York, and I've parked myself down in Northeast Georgia, the Peach State.
Yes.
No peaches. No peaches yet, though.
Wait a minute. Is it Peach State or Peachtree State?
It's the peach. Well, you know what? Maybe it's the Peachtree State.
Okay. I'll accept that.
All right. I could be wrong. But a beautiful state it is, and I can't wait for the peaches to appear because they are absolutely delicious. So anyway, welcome to everybody on the chat board tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. And for those of you not on the chat board, just watching in the background, lurking about, we always encourage conversation. So by all means, join in the conversation. Subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can watch the Joe and Joe Show every night, Monday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m., Sundays at 11 a.m., and Fridays and Saturdays we're off unless there's some big storm running around or if some storm is, on the map and getting ready to impact the area. So we will, of course, always let you know when we do one of those surprise appearances on the 2 days we have off. I don't know of any other little bit of shameless self-promotion here, Joe, but I don't know, nor have I really stumbled upon anyone else who's doing what we're doing on a 5-day-a-week basis. Do you?
No, I don't. I hate to say it. I'm not really looking at what you would possibly call competition, but no, I don't really think any of the other podcasts go for as many days as what we do.
No. I mean, there are some people out there who are doing that thing that I think they call it television. I'm not sure. I could be wrong. But we don't really count them we don't worry about those. Anyhow, just kidding. All right. So we had another day of instability clouds in the Northeast with some instability showers in a few places, a little bit less than yesterday and a little bit further north from what I saw on the radar.
Yeah, there were a couple of spits in my vicinity. I was on the road for a short time this afternoon. Actually, for a short time, late morning, early afternoon. Got a filling from my dentist this morning. On the way back, a couple little dot spots on the windshield. No big deal. No major, concern in terms of precipitation, but you know, that's instability for you, right?
Yeah. I actually, speaking of windshields, I got in my, it was 30 degrees this morning was my low. Got to 64 this afternoon with increasing clouds. Uh, but speaking of windshields, total shock to me was when I got into my car and I, started it and I looked out the windshield. There was a lovely crack right in it. I don't know where.
Oh,
I don't know where it came from. I drove yesterday afternoon. It was around maybe 4 o'clock. I was driving back from Walmart after having my oil changed, and the windshield was fine. I didn't hear any, rock bounce off of it or anything like that. And then this morning, there was a nice crack coming straight up from the bottom, about 6 inches or so, and then it had spread about 6 inches, going across. So I have to. Thursday, I'm having the windshield replaced at the local windshield place called
Safe Light?
No, Safe Light is the nearest Safe Light is an hour and a half.
Oh, in Pixley.
Well, yes, even be a bit beyond Pixley. So no, they don't service here. So
instead of getting your windshield fixed in Pixley, you're going to Crabwell Corners.
Yeah, well, pretty much. I'm bringing it over to Hootie's car repair, Hootie's, and that's the actual name of it. And they're going to take care of me. And I have glass coverage, so it wasn't a problem. It didn't matter if I took it to Safe Light or I took it locally. But I just had to do a little. It's funny. It was like I had to get a referral. It was just like health insurance. I had to get a referral in order to get from my insurance company in order to get the windshield fixed
At Hootie's.
At Hootie's, and then they gave me and I did get the referral. It was just one of those strange mornings, though, having to deal with that. But nonetheless, there are worse problems in life. So let's take a look at what's going on weather-wise. And at least from the standpoint, we're getting to the time of year now where the watches and warnings map starts to thin out a bit. There's not a whole lot on it. But of the few places that do have some activity, there's still some frosts and freezes from Iowa east across northern Illinois, northern Indiana, southern Michigan, and northwest Ohio, and also in a small area in northeastern Kentucky. Some freeze advisories up in west central PA. Also a few freeze advisories in northeast PA and northwest New Jersey, and it looks like also maybe in Orange County, I'm guessing.
Also Putnam.
And Putnam. Also, you have a what do you have, a freeze? What is it? A frost advisory?
Frost advisory.
Yeah. Winter storm warnings up, and I wonder if Denver's under this. Let's see. No, Denver's outside. They're having a thunderstorm right now with light rain and fog. Denver is outside the winter storm warnings. They are in the counties to the west and north, and also to the west and south. Just for laughs, let's see just how much snows are they talking about here. Snowfall amounts up to 2 feet expected for most of the Front Range Mountains and the upper elevations of the foothills. Snowfall rates of 2 inches an hour possible, with heavier snowfall even as we speak this afternoon and tonight. And travel will likely be very difficult during this period. Snow levels will lower by this evening, with increasing potential for impactful accumulations over the Palmer Divide between Castle Rock and Colorado Springs. So,
Well, I had no intentions tonight to go over any of those divides or springs. So,
well, good. That's good to know. That it warms my heart that you're going to be safe and
yes.
not travel under these extreme conditions.
I'm just going to deal with the frost and make sure that I'm not get caught with my plants down.
Yeah. Flood watch up for the Sierra Nevadas. We've got a few winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories up in southeast Montana. And, oh, look, the severe thunderstorm watch just disappeared. So we don't even have the severe thunderstorm watch anymore. Oh, there it is. Now we have a severe thunderstorm watch up in northwest Texas. So we'll take a look at it, and even a few warnings have popped up there. So we'll take a look at those in a moment. So here's the wide satellite view with should have lightning strikes on it, and we're not seeing any. Hold on. We are working on to restore image production as quickly as possible. Please refer to other GOES imagery sites listed on our resource page. Okay, so apparently GOES is having a problem. Yeah, the last picture here, the last frame, because I just freshened this up and it didn't update. The last frame on this is from 2 o'clock this afternoon, so it's a little bit old. But you see where all the clouds are gathering up through Texas and Oklahoma. And you can also see the rotation with this energy that is moving through the Rockies back west of Denver. That little curl is going to be moving southeastward tonight and tomorrow. Meanwhile, in the Northeast, we still have this upper low. I mean, this blocking pattern is really fairly impressive. It's just sort of sitting there, and we're still getting, little spokes that are rotating around it, and that's creating this instability cloudiness that we've been seeing today. Here's the northeast loop. Also, the last frame is from 2 o'clock this afternoon, just as the clouds were really getting going. I always like it, Joe. When I look at the loop in the morning, it was clear. I mean, there wasn't a cloud anywhere close, but you knew they were going to bubble up, and sure enough, there they are.
And I might point out also, you talk about the problem with GOES. I saw an announcement from the National Weather Service in Upton, the New York City National Weather Service, that they're going to be changing, I think, a transformer or a generator. And so because of that, there's going to be no radar available from their site for 1 week, I think beginning later this week. So
right, and right through the weekend.
Yeah, so okay, especially when what we're considering for later in the weekend, when we probably would need radar coverage. Now, I just want to make sure that I'm correct here and I'm not leading anybody astray. Okay, KOKX WSR 88D radar will be down for approximately 7 days, beginning this Thursday. That's Thursday of this week for generator replacement.
All right, that means we're not going to have it for the events of the weekend and into early next week.
Correct.
All right. Well, we'll have to make do with the Fort Dix radar and the Boston radar somehow, and the Albany radar.
We apologize for any inconvenience that this might cause. Yeah, it will cause a bit of an inconvenience. We know that it's going to turn fairly dry after this event on Sunday or early Monday. We know that there's going to be a spell of dry weather. Why not, for goodness sake, wait until after this impending event coming our way for the weekend? Why not wait until after that to take down the radar for the replacement of the generator? Why have to do it now on Thursday when they know that it's going to be very active right on? Well, I don't work for the government, so there you go.
Well, as Ms. Fowler points out, a lot of planned radar maintenance for radars at NWS, but it's often been postponed due to severe weather. So maybe they may change it. Maybe they'll change their minds if it does look like there's something viable for late Sunday night and Monday.
Hopefully.
And there's a couple of questions here. So David C. about a severe weather threat potential this weekend in Virginia. When we get to the maps, I'll address that. And Johnny Quest would like to know from you, Joe, if this pattern is an omega block.
I'm not sure if you call it an omega block. I think some of the forecasters may actually refer to it as a Rex block. In other words, a block where we have is more of an emphasis not so much on the troughing that occurs in the west or the east, but more in terms of like ridging. I'm going to take a look one more time here at the upper level map on tropical tidbits, and no, it's not an omega block in the classic sense, because what we have is we have one big block over the Great Lakes. and then we have a ridge trying to build over in the west. And but that block seems to permeate. It seems to be so large and so prominent. It seems to take up virtually half the country. So no, I wouldn't call this a in the classic sense. I would not call this an omega block.
All right. Well, what if you look at it from the perspective of, well, no, you're right, because, well, I'm just looking at this here. I mean, what if you look at it? Yeah, I got the map, the upper air map up. So what if you look at it from this perspective? Just give me a moment here. I'm going to see if I can box this. All right. So, okay, if you look over North America, it doesn't look like it. But what if you look at it from the perspective of, say, the upper low that is, whoops. Okay, you see the upper low out in the Azores, northwest of the Azores, and then the upper low over Lake Superior. Those two eyes looking at you with the ridge in the middle. Could you say that's an omega block?
I guess. Well, yeah, but that's like pretty much the block. The block is based upon an upper level system over the Great Lakes, and one that's south and east of the Maritimes, and then you got a bit of a ridge trying to poke up in between the two.
Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but yeah, when I'm talking about like a Rex block, I'm talking about a block that's characterized by high pressure, located out over the western United States, and low pressure. That's well, actually, it's in a lot of cases it's more north of what we're looking at right now, not over the Great Lakes, but more like over Hudson Bay. And the Rex block remains nearly stationary until one of the height centers changes intensity and unbalances the high over low pattern. It's kind of like a ridge of an upper level ridge of high pressure that's trying to rise up and over the actual trough. Well, why wouldn't we just say this, Joe? It's a blocking pattern.
Okay.
Whether it's omega, whether it's a Rex block or an omega block, regardless, it is a blocking pattern.
Okay, I got you. All right, let's go to the radar, and we've got as of 7:53 p.m. Eastern time, you've got showers up in New Hampshire, northern Vermont, northwestern Maine. Not much, if anything, at all right now in southern New England and across the middle and lower Hudson Valley to the eastern half of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, down into Delaware and Maryland. Then there looks like there's another little spoke that is moving through this evening across Ohio and western New York and western PA with some showers. And also seeing some sprinkles across parts of interior North Carolina. We've got some showers and a couple of thunderstorms roving about in South Florida, looks like to the northwest of Miami and Fort Lauderdale. And then we have this mess in the southern plains, where we have some showers and downpours and a couple of embedded thunderstorms from across Arkansas into northeast Oklahoma. And then you see the severe weather that is broken out in northwest Texas, where we've got 7 severe thunderstorm warnings that are in play at the moment. And then, of course, you see what's going on in Colorado, where Denver's getting a thunderstorm, and to the west of that in the mountains, you're seeing some snow there that is showing up. And look at this, up and down the West Coast, there ain't a thing going on. Totally quiet. Somebody ought to take a picture of that and put it up in a frame, considering how much, what's gone on there this winter.
Well, you knew it had to end eventually, and it has for the moment.
Yep, it certainly has. Storm Prediction Center tonight, an enhanced risk of severe weather in central Texas, with a 5% tornado risk being indicated, and that looks like it includes the Dallas-Fort Worth area. The area of risk, hold on, let me make sure I got the right day up, which I don't. That's for tomorrow. I take it back. I knew it didn't look right. Here's tonight's, okay? So we've got a 5% tornado risk, more central Texas, but more to the western side than the eastern side. 2% going all the way up into southeastern Colorado. We also have a marginal risk in central and south Florida, and we saw some storms showing up there. And we even have a general thunderstorm risk in northeast New York, Vermont, and New Hampshire tonight with the precip that's there at the moment. Now, this is tomorrow's, where we have enhanced risk in central and east Texas, including the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Slight risk surrounds that. Marginal risk going out also further to the north, east, and west, and south. And we also have a rather large area of slight risk being indicated tomorrow in the interior of central and south Florida. And that does not have a tornado risk in Florida, but you see the 5% risk up in central and northeast Texas, and a 15 to 30% risk for strong winds. And there's your hail risk, which is running at 15% or higher in that enhanced risk zone. So that's day 2. Day 3, marginal risk in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, and the Florida Panhandle, the western part of the Florida Panhandle. And why don't we check out days 4 through 8? I don't expect to see anything. Predictability too low, potential too low. They still have potential too low for Sunday and Monday. So we'll see how that plays out. And still pretty bullish on the rainfall by WPC, because it now looks like that first low is going to be a little more developed and maybe go a little bit further to the north. And then you add to that the second system that comes for Sunday night and Monday. It certainly justifies those 2 to 3 inch. The red is 2.5, so 2.5 to 3 inches plus for much of Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, the Hudson Valley, southern New England to about Long Island, and then that goes down the Appalachians, right, but not quite to my house in northeast Georgia. Also some big rains on the Florida Panhandle, big rains just off the North Carolina coast. Most of areas east of the Mississippi showing at least 1.5 inches of liquid here. And also some big rains across Oklahoma and Arkansas, northeast Texas, backing its way into southern Kansas and into eastern Colorado. So a lot of areas in there are dealing with a drought. This is a good thing for them.
I find it so intriguing. It's almost like the Florida Peninsula tomorrow is the convective capital of the world, save for the Panhandle. I mean, virtually everywhere in Florida, they have a risk, and I mean, no tornadic activity expected. Although they did have a water spout that came on shore a few days ago that made the rounds on the internet. But if you want any lightning or thunder or maybe some hail or gusty winds, go to Florida, because that seems to be the place to be tomorrow for that.
Yep, this is what happens when you get a blocking pattern at this time of year. You get situations like this that set up for severe weather, as we've been talking the last couple of days about the fact that this week the tracks for severe weather were going to be further south than they normally are, and it certainly is playing according to plan. So I got the upper air here that I brought it up briefly earlier, so I just left it there, and you see the rotation there around the Great Lakes, and that's the upper low. There's also, if you're trying, if you want to see, we talk about a block right up here in northeastern. Now, why? Oh, because I have the box. Okay, I got to go back to the pencil. Okay, right up here over Labrador, there is a strong upper high that is sitting there. And of course, when you see the normal west to east flow of the jet stream, it's misleading because of the fact that much of the time it's not. And this is one of those cases where it's definitely not. But with that upper high that's closed off there in Labrador, you see how far south the main jet is. It's way south across the United States and moving off the East Coast. And then, of course, we've got a bit of a Canadian connection here, too, which is keeping things rather cool. And you've got disturbances moving along in this southern stream that are going to be crossing the country. And the first one for late this week is not going to couple with something up in the northern part of the jet stream, but the second one is going to couple with try to couple with something in the north. Now here's the flow as we move through Thursday. You see that upper low moving across New Mexico and Texas. It kind of opens up, but there's still a short wave that you can find on Friday that's somewhere down in here. And now we've got the second one that is diving down into Colorado and Wyoming. And then you've got all this northern energy that's trying to come into play. So the first one tries to lift up. It succeeds to an extent, but it sort of gets lost over time. And then the second one, and now you've got this northern energy right there. There's that southern energy. And as we move that along, you're going to see does it phase? Does it not phase? And it does phase, and that northern system sort of overwhelms. Now, here's the thing. From what I was looking at with some of the models today, which have seemed to gone a little bit differently than what they were doing yesterday to an extent, that first system being more important seems to make the second system perhaps a little bit less important and a little less dynamic on today's runs. I don't know how true that is, but it is something to consider here. But the second system will come through in some form one way or another. And then after that, going into next week, you still have this upper low. I mean, it doesn't look like it wants to break down.
Well, we'll still probably have some showers around, or rain or showers, maybe lingering or spilling over, if you will, into Monday. But then, as I said, it looks like we'll start moving toward a drier trend Tuesday and beyond.
I would agree with. Yeah. I mean, it just looks very blocky for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah,
in some form or another.
And cool. If not downright chilly. So we're going to be moving into the month of May on a coolish or chilly note. I should point out also that, I always forget the names because they're like Greek sounding, but there's a period from the 7th through the 9th of May. Those 3 days are referred to as the 3 chilly saints because supposedly or traditionally, those are the last 3 days where you can anticipate either a freeze or a frost, and you're not supposed to plant anything until after the anniversary or after the dates of the 3 chilly saints in early May. So this might be one of those years that theory or that legend holds up, because it looks like we're going to be in a below normal temperature pattern here in the eastern United States, right on into and maybe beyond the first week of May.
This, by the way, may be a good time to mention, Joe, that we have 44 likes. So if you like the Joe and Joe Weather Show, if you're liking what you're seeing, hit the like button. Because Joe and I used to, usually like to take it to 100 likes. But in this part of the spring, all the winter weather people have, gone on sabbatical. So our audience size is just a wee bit smaller than what it usually is. But still, we can try. Anyway, on the surface, now I threw in the mention that there could be a shower tomorrow evening because there's some weak little weather front that's moving on through. Did you for eastern PA to southern New England? Did you do that?
I said for tomorrow, sunny to partly cloudy, at least initially. And then I threw in the risk of some spotty light showers or sprinkles during the afternoon and continuing into tomorrow night. And whereas tonight we'll see temperatures in the 30s, tomorrow night with all the cloud cover and the risk of that, little bit of precipitation, it'll be milder. You can call temperatures in the low to mid 40s mild.
All right. And meanwhile, you'll see over Oklahoma and Texas, you've got the rain and thunderstorms. This is part of that enhanced risk. More than likely, the radar will be more active than what the GFS shows. You've got some scattered storms in Florida tomorrow. Then this low moves east. You've got the next high going right up into New England, and that sets up the onshore flow. Not so much on Thursday, but Thursday night and Friday, we start to get into that east or southeast wind. GFS wants to have a low now in southern Indiana. It's funny because this model was suppressing this so far south, right, taking it from South Carolina to Bermuda. And of course, logically, when you look at it in the long range, and of course, logically, the low should wind up in southern Indiana and go up to Ohio. But that lifts up. So it looks like we're going to probably get some rain here. And the Europeans been more consistent with this idea with some rain late in the week. So, yeah, I think we're probably it looks like we're going to get some rain Friday into Saturday morning. Actually lingers for quite a while into Saturday. Doesn't get out of the way. But I think because there's that low there, it's sort of impacting the system behind it. Here it comes. And by the way, look at the GFS here for Sunday morning. That's quite a line of storms that it has from southern Alabama across the western part of the Florida Panhandle into the Gulf of Mexico.
And would you still think that there's a chance of mentioning convection on Sunday?
Now I'm looking at this with this lead low, and if you look on Sunday, well, here's Saturday. You got this low that goes to Ohio, northwest Ohio. There's some kind of secondary low that forms off North Carolina, and that slides east, but it doesn't really get out of the way. I mean, it's still there Sunday afternoon. So the flow maybe we'll go back to what you said yesterday about the fact that the marine flow on Sunday might be far stronger than it was in the event we just had, so that maybe we won't, maybe Western Pennsylvania back into West Virginia, Ohio, and Kentucky. Yeah, but I'm maybe I'm starting to lean to the idea that the marine layer is going to be too much this time around.
And so, in this particular case, maybe we'll just be looking at rain or periods of rain and showers for Sunday and on into Monday, not mentioning the threat of any convection, but also because of the fact that the onshore flow, this time of the year, we should be now in the mid to upper 60s. And Joe, I think Saturday looks unseasonably cool, 50s to around 60, near 60 on Sunday. Monday here in the Hudson Valley, still only near 60. So what can I say? What can I tell any of you? It's going to be below normal.
But it does look, if the GFS is right, it's raining from Friday afternoon into Saturday evening. I mean, there might be a short break here and there, but for the most part, for New York State, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, it could be raining for a day and a half's worth. And then Sunday, you start to get this stronger system that the way it's lining up, but you're not getting. I think the first system is impacting the second system, where you're not going to get, a strong low with a point of occlusion low along the coast. You'll have some semblance of it, but it still brings more showers and rain later Sunday night into Monday morning. Now, David earlier was asking about a severe weather threat, for Virginia. I'm going to say for Saturday, probably no. In fact, it may actually stop raining for a while. And then later Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, okay, maybe Sunday night when that front swings through, there might be some showers and thunderstorms then. And then you're right, after that goes by, Monday and Tuesday, other than instability clouds and instability showers that look like they want to be around on not so much on Monday, but more on Tuesday, something's coming down from the north there. Most of next week looks relatively uneventful.
Yeah, again, it's going to be a matter of just breaking this all down and starting everything in motion again. But for a while, again, because of the block, we're going to be stuck in this, as you like to say, Joe, doom and gloom.
No. Gloom and doom.
Oh, gloom and doom.
Right. Not doom and gloom. Gloom and doom.
I didn't know that gloom came before doom.
Gloom comes first, then doom.
All right.
Okay. Although if you get the doom first, yeah, then you'd be gloomy for a while.
Yes.
Anyhow, enough so much for that. We managed to get it to 63 likes, which is good. So, on that note,
and I love Christianopedia. Gloom and doom in a deep voice. I don't have a deep voice to replicate that, but I get the idea here.
Yeah, gloom and doom.
Yes.
All right, so let's play Briller Jeopardy. We need Don Pardo.
Yes. Don Pardo lived a good long life. How old are you? 97,
Yeah,
98?
I think he was 97.
Wow.
97. Okay, so we're gonna continue on yesterday's theme, Joe Rayo, which is the following cities for what the latest measurable snow date is. And by measurable snow, we're talking about 0.1 inches or higher. Okay, trace does not count. All right.
Okay.
So let us begin now with Great Falls, Montana. Great Falls, Montana. And this,
I've been to Great Falls.
Yes. So what is the amount we're talking about here is 5.1 inches.
Oh. Not even a trace, or not a trace, but I mean, only a few tenths of an inch in most cases in other cities. How much? 5.1 inches?
5.1 inches. Christinapedia kicks it off with June 10th. Johnny Quest says June 16th.
It's interesting how we have people who automatically jump to the month of June, totally bypassing May. I would say, well.
Maggie P says June 8th. Northern Grace says June 3rd. William Uber says May 30th. May 31st for Steve LaPointe. June 3rd for Carol DeChiara, yeah. June 3rd.
So is anybody like circling around it?
There's a few vultures are circling around it, yes. Should I give the answer?
I'm going to say June 6th. Something crazy like that.
Johnny Quest said June 16th, and Christinapedia says June 10th. So Christinapedia wins because by Price is Right rules, she is under the date, June 12th, 1969. June 12th. Keith James II just said June 13th. So, because there is a delay, so he said it before I said it. So, Great Falls, Montana, 5.1 inches on June 12th, 1969. So let's go west of there to Boise, Idaho. Boise, Idaho. And the amount in question here is 0.1 inch. 0.1 inch.
Well, that's kind of weird. I think Boise is far more elevated than Great Falls is. And you would expect that Boise would probably have a better shot. It's almost as if you transpose the values, Joe. To me, it seems like if Boise would be more likely for 5.1 than 0.1. So 0.1 inch for Boise. How about May 23rd?
Close, but we already have a winner. Already on.
Really?
Yes, Johnny Quest said May 26th. And the date is May 26th, 1922. So 101 years ago, this coming May 26th is the anniversary of that 1/10 of an inch.
And who was there to
they'd have to
measure it?
find probably at least somebody that's at least 105 or 106 that can say they remembered it. So I would think the pool of candidates is small. Salt Lake.
And how do they measure that? Did they put the ruler on the top of the Model T to get that?
Yeah, right. Salt Lake City, Utah. Salt Lake City, Utah. And the amount in question is 2 inches.
Well, how about June 3rd? Blah, blah.
June 3rd, says Joe Rayo for Salt Lake City. Steve LaPointe says June 4th. Chris Alley says May 21st. May 30th for Johnny Quest. May 24th for Carol DeChiara. June 6th for Helen Bartona. The answer is June the 6th. 1914, Salt Lake City, 2 inches. Next. The city that is known for the famous phrase, Ethel May Potter, we never forgot her.
Never forgot her.
Right.
Albuquerque.
Albuquerque. It's also known as the place where Bugs Bunny should have turned left.
Right.
And so what is it for Albuquerque? 2 inches is the amount in question. 2 inches for Albuquerque.
I'll say May 31st.
May 31st.
Steve LaPointe says May 50th.
Yeah, right. Chris Alley says May 5th. Northern Grace, May 17th. Frank Riccio, May 14th. Chuck Cardillo. Chuck Cardillo is the winner here. May 4th, 1935, wow. 2 inches. And our final city is Flagstaff, Arizona.
Oh, God.
Flagstaff, Arizona, where a half an inch of snow fell on this date, on its last date. Okay.
I've been to Flagstaff. I've had sleet fall on me in Flagstaff as early as the first week of October. That was back in 1985. I would guess, I'm going to say May the 9th.
May the 9th, he says. Okay. John Melander says June 2nd. Maggie P, June 5th. So says David C. We have a number of people that are in the month of May. Anthony Spiraccio, May 4th. Northern Grace, May 20th. William Uber, May 2nd. Helen Bertona, May 22nd. Okay, well, so far, it's the June folks that are close. Okay. So Christina Pedius is June 10th. And Maggie P said June 5th. So did David C. And the actual...
Coin Pig says July 21st. I think that's a
little far. No, it's June 8th. June 8th, 1907, Joe, where we had 0.5, half an inch. Half an inch.
Steve LaPointe was, if you played by Price is Right rules, he would have lost, but he came closest, I think, June the 11th, he said.
June the 11th.
But it was June the 8th.
June 8th. June 8th. All right. I'm trying to think off the top of my head if there's anything else going on in my life that I can share, but honestly, the last couple of days for me have been downright boring.
Well,
although there is a huge there is a huge scandal, Joe. I forgot all about this. The town is in an absolute uproar. But I can't mention names, but other than to say that a certain, should I really say this? A certain person, let's say that she's known for being a bit chatty. Okay.
Okay.
A bit chatty. And she lost her job as a volunteer at the hospital. Okay. For talking too much. She was a candy striper, and she lost her job for talking too much. The whole town's in an absolute uproar over this.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's just goes to show you, that's the lead story in the. They've been writing a series of articles about that.
In the hinterlands of northern Georgia.
Yes, correct. The beautiful hinterlands of northern Georgia, I want to add.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the most exciting thing that's happened here. So.
Well, nothing has happened in my life except, again, I had to get a filling this morning. That was the first time in 4 years that I had anything, significant with my teeth. So, and the funny thing,
Novocaine?
And the funny thing, yes, Novocaine.
Okay.
And couldn't eat anything for about 90 minutes. But when I got up out of the chair, and my dentist said, Now, I don't want to see you in a while for quite some time. I said, what are you talking about? I'm going to be here 6 months from now. I said, well, that's quite some time, isn't it? So,
Well, I have actually. I go every four. I go every 4 months. I pay for an extra cleaning, so I have my next appointment is in the month of May. So I go in for my cleaning, and that really is it. Thankfully,
this might be bad news for you because, as you've often pointed out, we're joined at the hip. It seems so. Maybe they'll find something like a cavity with you when you go back in May.
well, let's not go down that particular road yet. Actually, they filled a cavity for me. One of my fillings was coming out, and they filled it. That was it I think it might have been the last time I went to the dentist. So, and that was back it was in January. So it took 3 months for the attached at the hip thing to work. If you want to look at that way, you want to look at it that way. You had a cavity, or it was a filling that popped?
No, it was a cavity.
Oh,
I was surprised. He looked at it. He says, "So, well, you got a cavity." That was last week when he was cleaning my teeth and took X-rays. And I said, "Well, I guess you're going to have to come back." And I came back today.
Carol DeCaro wants to know from me. She says, anything going on with trains? I guess you may have seen the two YouTube shorts I put up on Sunday when I took my. We all went. My two of my daughters, my grandsons, my granddaughter, and my son-in-law. Apparently, so my two grandsons are just obsessed with trains. So they go into this area in Atlanta, very nice area with restaurants. Really nice place. And there's a bridge that connects one side of this complex of restaurants. It was an old industrial building that it's an industrial area that they've regentrified, and they took this old industrial building and they basically turned it into an indoor mall of sorts, keeping the original architecture and everything else. And there's a railroad. There's a railroad that runs in between the two sections. So there's a bridge that you cross. So apparently, it's a thing for them on Sundays. They usually go to the railroad bridge and sit there and wait for a train to come. And every hour or every hour or so, a train does come. So my grandsons they were so thrilled because they had never seen an Amtrak train, and an Amtrak train came. And, you stand on the bridge and you wave to the conductors because the conductors see you and they wave back. Of course, I waved and they waved back. And then we had a 6-engine Norfolk Southern train that came through. It took about like 6 or 7 minutes for the whole train to go by. There must have been at least 100 cars on it. And that was pretty cool because they had some open cars with scrap metal that they were taking to wherever they take the scrap metal to, and other things that they were shipping around. So that pretty much is the latest of my train stories.
Yeah, it brought back a memory I haven't thought about in God knows how many years. When I was a very young boy, my grandmother occasionally would take me on walks on the FDR Drive, and sometimes we used to stop and watch freight trains. I don't even know if they do this anymore. Freight trains going over the Hellgate Bridge.
Yeah, that's still active.
And you see all those can you count the trains, Joseph? And yeah, look at that. And they seem to stretch on forever.
They've been talking about for years to put a passenger rail line on that line, because that would be, it's odd with New York City that if you have to go, say, if you've never been to New York City, actually, I should say it this way. If those of you watching, if you live in New York City, you'll understand this. If you live in the Bronx and you want to go to Queens and you want to use mass transit, you either take a bus, which takes forever to get across, or now with the Easy Pass tolls and all, there's no toll booths or anything, but it would take you an hour and a half to basically cross a 2-mile stretch of highway, because you wanted to get to the other side. There's no subway connection to go from the Bronx to Queens. You have to go down into Manhattan, and change it on a train there and then go out to Queens. But they were talking for years because there's a rail line that part of the New Haven branch of Metro North that runs down in the East Bronx, and it branches off, and that actually crosses over and over Long Island Sound at a narrow point of it, and then the track continues over the Hellgate Bridge. They've been talking for years about creating some sort of passenger line there, but they never seem to get around to doing it.
Yeah, that would be good. I don't know about you. When I used to go home from City College on the Upper West Side, I had two choices. I could take a train and then a bus, which the bus was the number 40 bus, which would take me from the western part of the Bronx all across the Bronx.
Yes.
And then and it seemed to take like an hour and a half. It took forever to do that. Or I would take the A train and the D train and the F train down into the middle of Manhattan, and then get off at Rockefeller Center, and then take another train into Queens, and then take a third train, number 7 line, into Flushing, and then I'd take a bus over the Whitestone Bridge. I think about this now, all the time that I wasted just trying to get home.
Oh God!
Ouch.
Yeah, I used to work in Manhattan after school, so I used to take the D train down to 23rd Street, and then I would did I have to change? I think I had to change at 42nd Street to get on a local, so then I have to change to the B and then go to 23rd Street because I worked for for a while. I was working for a chain of check cashing stores. So I would go to 23rd Street, which was the main store, and they would hand me a bag of money with $5,000 in it and say, okay, we need you to take this to the store in Brooklyn, for example.
Oh, God.
So I'd have to go out on the train again. And I'm sitting there in the subway with a brown paper bag, Joe, and $5,000 in a brown paper bag. I don't know how for years. I rode subways. I grew up in New York City. Joe and I both grew up in New York City in the 70s. You think the crime, they talk about the crime in New York City now being as bad as it was in the 70s. It was pretty bad. I don't know how it happened. I rode the subway so much. You think I would have gotten robbed at least once. I never ever had a negative anything like that happen. About the most negative experience, and I'm just remembering this now, was okay. So I had to change on, I think it was 57th Street, and I had to get on the F train. So the F train is packed with, every car is packed except for one. All right, where there were a couple of people standing around. So of course, you don't want to stand for a long trip. So I gravitated to where that slightly empty car was. So doors close, the train takes off. I'm sitting there, and like I said, there's just a couple of people, but it was sort of strange. As the other cars, people were standing, and you're in this one car where that's not happening. It didn't take too long to where I suddenly got the whiff of an odor, okay? And it wasn't the most pleasant odor in the world. Let's just say there wasn't a can of Febreze handy. All right. So the next thing I know, this gentleman gets up and begins to walk toward the end of the car to go to the car that's filled with people. When he got into my line of vision as he was passing me, torn clothing, his pants were pulled completely down to his legs, and he was covered with, human.
All right, that's it. We're all done.
You got it?
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
That was the most negative. That was probably the most negative experience that I've ever had. And of course, you used to go to Yankee games and be able to watch some of the game from. Did you go? He did go.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I just closed my shutter.
Right. They used to go, if I go to Yankee games on the 4 train, and you could, from the platform, you used to be able to watch the ball game, which you can't do anymore because they sealed it off because they don't want people watching and not paying for it. Excuse me. So anyway.
Well, more often than not, my grandfather would take me to the bleachers at the old Yankee Stadium. That was 75 cents.
Yep. 75 cents.
Yep.
Well, the upper deck was $1.50. I had 2 paper routes. I used to go to I used to spend the extra 75 cents and go to the upper deck.
I remember they used to have a former ball player, Earl Batty, and they called them the Con Ed kids. And I guess they were the underprivileged kids who couldn't even afford 75 cents. And Earl Batty sponsored this, and so a bunch of kids would be out in the bleachers at Yankee Stadium. And that was back in the time when my grandfather was trying to convert me to become a Yankee fan because I was always a Met fan. So
Anthony Sparacchio said he had a similar experience to me with an empty car and a homeless man with no AC. All right, and I'll just tell you, Anthony. In my case, it was an empty car with a homeless man, and it was in the dead of winter, so the heat was on. So it was not pleasant. Anyway,
you see that new stuff that they advertise on cable? By the way, it's called Poof.
No, I don't watch television.
You spray anything with a bad odor.
Oh,
and
I've seen that commercial. Yes, I've seen
and
that.
The guy actually sprays it in his mouth, and everybody.
Oh.
But
Ew.
I haven't tried that. Now that I have a dog, however, and the dog is prone to doing that sort of thing once or twice a day, I'm thinking, thankfully not in the house, but if you ever did in the house, maybe we ought to get a bottle of Poof.
Ugh.
In other words, and on that happy note,
yes.
I'm going to poof out of here.
All right, and the Joe and Joe Weather Show brought to you by our newest affiliate, Tempest by WeatherFlow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system and join the fastest growing observing network on the planet. It's easy to install. Took me 5 minutes to put together, and it's outside, and it does a great job, and I can check my observation on the phone. Check it out. The link is is pinned to the top of the chat board. And if you decide to buy it, or if you buy some of the other weather merchandise that they have there, use the coupon code Joe and Joe Weather Show, and you will get an extra 10% off. And it is also, whoops, I hit the wrong way. Also brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. 631-756-1125 is the phone number, and the website is omnitruevalue.com. Joseph, see you tomorrow. Everybody, see you all tomorrow. Nighty-night.
Nighty-night.